it's becoming clear and clear that was a stage-managed event to create fear throughout the land to get us into a war. Now, based upon that, it's basically reaching this point, Dee Dee, where you're aware that there's a dark force manipulating events on your planet, and it makes you want to go to the light, to the opposite of what that is. It's a spiritual wake-up call when you realize you're not in Kansas anymore. You're not aimlessly going to a mysterious future. You're going somewhere that's basically into a tyrannical hellhole unless you create your own reality and reverse some of this madness.
Yeah, and
maybe
it's
not for all of us, but
it's not designed to hold up. You know, people think, oh, they've been doing this manipulative control for decades. Well, so what? Everything's impermanent. Everything changes. Everything has an end, and it can't stand up. You know, I mean, if you want to live on a prison planet, to quote Alex Jones, go ahead. But if you don't want to live on a prison planet, then don't make that your reality. I know that sounds really trivial, but it's as simple as that, really. On a higher level, you're going to be moved where you're a vibrational match.
I'm looking forward to seeing more shifts in consciousness and awareness in Portland, for example. And I think on one level it is happening. I think there's a lot of people here that aren't aware of what we're talking about, but they're here for a reason.
Oh,
that's I keep meeting people that have moved from all over. Every week it happens, but it's going to be interesting.
It is interesting. I think it's very exciting. I mean, at this point for me, I have a pretty good understanding of what's going on. I don't know everything, but I'm just myself, like you were talking on a personal level, I'm just starting to feel like, oh, let's take off this heavy backpack that I've been carrying around with, and let's put on a lighter clothes and some lighter shoes and get out there and see where the action really is. And like your caller was saying, well, I want to connect with people. Well, do that. Get out there and connect with them and celebrate with them, you know, and serve them in some way. And if some way you can give them understanding about what's happening that gives them a lighter pack to carry.
Speaking of which, I spent all day moving today, so I'm still in my sweatshirt. But that was definitely feeling like taking a load off after being in somewhat of an abusive roommate relationship situation there. Moving to a different place, it's going to feel so different the next couple of days in this new environment. But you mentioned non-physical entities earlier, and I didn't talk about this on the show yet, but I think I've shared with you a little bit. There was other people that lived in the house before me that confirmed this. Some sort of a demon, some sort of an entity, some sort of a ghost that would go in between the rooms of my room, Brad's room, and Ken's room, the other two roommates that I had. And whenever I go into the home that I used to live in, it would feel so dark and depressing and low. And every time I would leave, it would just be like that backpack was lifted.
Yeah.
So I'm about to go into a whole new paradigm just by living in a whole different reality. But definitely, there hasn't been any other house that I've lived in. I lived there about a year where I've ever felt that energy, like there was someone there, that whole like straight up poltergeist, get out type of vibe. I'm so glad I'm not sleeping there tonight.
Well, that is a very real thing. I've just got a heads up that there's some of that.
And then I've had multiple friends come over when the ghost or whatever would bang on the wall. There would be lots of banging at night.
We have knocking at my house that I'm currently going to move out of.
Yeah.
But these off-world negative forces are real.
Yeah.
They definitely exist and they definitely influence your consciousness. But the key here is being aware of them. Once you're aware of something, you change it. That's why it's not good to be in denial about anything. Just because you don't think there's ghosts or ETs doesn't mean they aren't real. But once you're aware of them, then they don't have the power over you. That's why we do the American Underground Network. It isn't because we want to focus on what's bad. We want to get people the opportunity to look at it so that their awareness changes it automatically. It puts light on it.
These challenges could force people to become a little bit more assertive. I know that when it started getting bad, and then at one point my face was touched at one time when I was sleeping. Another time I was sleeping, I can feel footsteps on the bed.
Yeah.
It made me basically go into this place where I had to declare, like, this is my space. And you don't have any right to be in my physical space. Yeah, this is my room. I understand that you're here. I can feel you. But you need to go.
Yeah, you have to be a brave heart. You have to have the heart of a lion to face off with these energies. But when you realize that love and light, basically, we're made of light, we're born in love, and no matter how bad a person is, when they're an innocent being coming in here, they're filled with the love of the Spirit that they just left. And you go back to that no matter how bad you are, too. I believe that. Unless you're real bad. I think there's some other consequences, maybe. I don't know what that would be. But the thing is, you got to face these energies, because when you do that for yourself, like you said, I've been touched, too, and I've heard knocking and all kinds. I saw books fly off the shelf right in front of me. But to motivate by fear is useless. It doesn't change the fact that these energies are around us. But when you don't motivate by fear and you consciously choose to bring the energy up, that's where you have the real power coming from Spirit.
No, the future is not completely fearful. It's also very exciting. I'm definitely going to try to create the best summer that I've had in a long, long time.
I think this is a time, this 2010, I was at a meeting of all the top astrologers in the state, and they made it very clear by showing why they would say that this really is what people are expecting in 2012. These are where the changes really are occurring in 2010. And you watch, by June, if you aren't going through a big change already, you're going to hit one. So I say, get your feet on the ground, put your cord down into the earth, wrap it around a rock under Mount Hood or something, and just hold that ground, because you haven't seen anything yet.
Learn to listen.
Yeah.
Learn to listen
and
to that inner voice.
Allow is really the key, is to allow these changes to occur so we can get through them. It's like the bailouts. If they hadn't done those bailouts, 2 years would go by, and we would be free. If the free enterprise system was allowed to function, we wouldn't be under this burden. But because it wasn't allowed to happen, and the people wanted the bailout stopped, there's even cases Bob Schultz filed against the bailout on AIG. They're being here in court today, soon. If those hadn't been allowed to continue, since they were allowed to continue, then we've got this long, drawn-out economic crisis. But if we'd allowed that to fall down, if they'd allowed the banks to fall down,
right,
it would have solved it. And it's the same thing now. We have to allow this thing to play out its course. It's like the dinosaurs. These guys that run the show are so crazy and psychopathic and arrogant that they've completely lost track of their humanity. They have no idea how powerful the Spirit is on the planet. And that's why they want to go into space and control this planet and that planet and all that. It's not going to be
so much news about that.
It's not going to be allowed to happen. They're not going to get there. It's going to crash down, and we just have to be prepared for that and actually get excited about it in a way. I don't want to see people suffer either, but if they're not going to listen.
We've got about a minute left. Okay. Closing statements were the website, aunetwork.tv.
Yeah, it's the American Underground Network, and it's at aunetwork.tv,
okay.
And that's where we have the archive of all these people that have spoken to us about what's gone on with everything you can imagine. It's a very constitutional-based.
There are a lot of guests on.
A lot of guests, yeah. A lot of huge archive there. We've had 148 weeks of our show. And so please join us there. The phone number on how to get involved is on that website, and we'd be happy to have you join us. And thank you, Alex, so much. It was a pleasure being here.
In closing, by the way, you can watch your show on YouTube. Tell your friends in another country they can watch Outside the Box. You don't have to be in Portland. There is the internet. youtube.com/AlexAnsary. And briefly, due to economic difficulties, my website might go down in the next couple of days. Hopefully, if there is any donations, we'll be able to get it back up in the next couple of weeks. But that is also an important issue. If you'd like to volunteer or help out in any way, go ahead and email me, alex_ansary@hotmail.com. And of course, we'll be back next week with more information.
Most important thing is to stay out of the box.
Most important thing is to stay out of the box, expand your mind, expand your consciousness, and believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. Believe it's actually possible to live another way. A lot of stuff coming in the future. Glad you're my friend, Edie. Definitely.
Well, I'm glad you're my friend too, Alex.
It's good to bounce different ideas off of one another.
Yeah, it's important to stick together.
All right, till next week, I'm Alex Ansary and Edie, reminding you that the ultimate truth still starts within. Good night.